I felt him step behind me, and I did not move. He was breathing lightly, just over my shoulder. His scent, so familiar, yet laced with something wilder than my husband's, wrapped around me like smoke. I should have screamed. I should have turned around and stopped it. But I froze. I let the moment swallow me whole, because I knew it was not Peter. It was Paul, my husband's twin, and I let him have his way. That single decision, made in a quiet house with drawn curtains and my heart pounding against my ribs, destroyed everything I thought I was, every promise I made, every future I imagined. What do you do when your biggest betrayal feels like it was waiting to happen all along? What do you do when the man who ruined your life wears your husband's face? Before I continue this painful confession, I just want to take a moment to appreciate you. To every single one of you who has subscribed to this channel, thank you. Your support gives stories like mine a voice. And to all our new and returning viewers who are yet to subscribe, I cannot wait for you to hit that button. It is the fuel and energy that keeps this channel alive. Please do not forget to engage in the comments and share your thoughts. Your voice matters here. Now, let me take you back to the beginning. My name is Bertha. I am 40 years old, and I live in a quiet corner of Arkansas. I have been married to Peter for nearly 16 years. He is steady, thoughtful, and kind. He is the kind of man who remembers to fill the gas tank before I notice it is low. The kind of man who never yells, never rushes, and never lies. But he is also the kind of man who stopped seeing me years ago. Enter Paul, Peter's identical twin. Same face, same voice, but completely different on the inside. Paul is impulsive, unpredictable, the kind of man who enters a room like a fire alarm, loud, arresting, impossible to ignore. He has always been the black sheep of the family, drifting in and out of town with stories of bad investments, fast women, and near misses. But he was never my concern, until he came to stay with us. Paul showed up 2 months ago, saying he needed a break from his life. Peter, being the generous brother he is, offered our guest room. I should have protested. I should have set boundaries. But part of me was curious. Paul brought a kind of energy into the house that I had not felt in years. He noticed things. He complimented my cooking. He asked about my days. He stood too close, smiled too long, touched my hand for a second too long while passing the salt. It started small, but I felt it. I started wearing lipstick again. I started fixing my hair, even if Peter barely noticed. One afternoon, Paul walked into the kitchen while I was doing the dishes. He leaned on the counter, watching me, his eyes drifting over me like they had every right to. I always wondered how my brother landed someone like you, he said. I should have been offended. Instead, I blushed. Then came the day Peter left for a weekend trip to visit their sick aunt in Little Rock. Paul stayed behind, claiming he had a work Zoom meeting he could not miss. The house felt too quiet without Peter. But Paul filled that silence. He offered to help me clean out the garage. We spent the day lifting boxes, laughing, sweating under the Arkansas sun. At one point, I slipped, and he caught me. Our bodies touched. The tension was unmistakable. I tried to ignore it, tried to lock myself in my room with guilt and shame. But then it happened. I was in the hallway, distracted, tired. He came up behind me, suddenly, quietly. I felt his presence, like thunder, and I let it happen. I let him. I did not sleep that night. I sat at the edge of my bed, listening to the ceiling fan spin its slow, silent circles above me. Paul had gone to bed as if nothing had happened, as if my whole world had not just shifted beneath my feet. My chest ached, not from love, not even from guilt, just a deep, hollow confusion. I had crossed a line I could never uncross. And my husband, Peter, had no idea. He returned the next evening, tired but cheerful, hugging me like he always did. I clung to him longer than usual. Not because I missed him, but because I felt like I had lost him, even though he was standing right in front of me. That was the start of my quiet unraveling. At first, I told myself it was a mistake, a moment of insanity. I would bury it deep and never speak of it again. I would pretend Paul never touched me. I would erase it from my mind. But Paul had other plans. He began to linger in the corners of the house more often, watching me, smirking, dropping little comments when Peter was not around. "Your secret is safe with me," he whispered one afternoon in the pantry. I dropped the bag of rice I was holding. He laughed. And just like that, I knew I was not in control anymore. Peter started noticing changes. "Are you feeling okay, Bertha?" he asked one night as we were brushing our teeth. "You have been distant lately." I forced a smile. "I am just tired, that is all." But I was not tired. I was terrified, because Paul had become a shadow I could not shake. He would brush past me and whisper things like, "Do you think he would still love you if he knew?" Or worse, "Maybe you need someone who actually sees you." He was no longer just a mistake. He had become a weapon, one I had handed him myself. One morning, Peter left early for work, and Paul slipped into the kitchen wearing only a towel. He leaned against the fridge and said, "Remember when you did not stop me?" "I do." I slapped him. But he just smiled and walked away, humming to himself like he had already won. I told myself I had to end it, that I would confess to Peter. But every time I looked into my husband's eyes, so trusting, so calm, I froze. How do you destroy someone who never wronged you? How do you tear apart a man who never raised his voice, never gave up on you, never betrayed you? So I stayed silent. And Paul knew I would, until the night Peter found Paul's hoodie under our bed. It was gray, with a small tear on the sleeve. I recognized it instantly. Paul wore it almost every morning. I had told him, after what happened, that he was never to enter our bedroom again. But he had, and he had left proof behind. Peter held it up, confused. "Why is this here?" My mouth went dry. My heart thudded so loud, I thought the walls would hear. I tried to answer. I opened my mouth. But Paul walked in at that exact moment and smiled. "Oops," he said. "I must have dropped that earlier." He did not look at me, but his smile told me everything. He wanted to be caught. That night, the silence in our home was different. It was not the kind of silence that falls after a long day. It was the kind that hums with suspicion, that crawls across your skin and whispers he knows. He is starting to see it. Peter barely spoke over dinner. He kept glancing at me, then at Paul, then back again, his eyes squinting, his fork motionless halfway to his mouth. Paul, on the other hand, was enjoying himself far too much. He cracked jokes, exaggerated stories, filled the room with noise. He was testing limits, daring Peter to connect the dots, daring me to fall apart. I could barely breathe. After Paul left the table, Peter finally asked, "Why does it feel like something is off between you two?" I looked down. My hands trembled. "Nothing is off," I whispered. "I am just tired, that is all." The lie slid off my tongue like water. I had become good at lying. But Peter was not the fool I hoped he would be. The next morning, I found Peter sitting alone in the garage, holding an old photo of the three of us, me, him, and Paul, taken the summer we got married. His jaw was tight, his fingers gripping the frame too hard. "I used to think Paul was the reckless one," he said. "The one who would ruin everything." I did not answer. He looked up at me, and I saw it in his eyes. He knew. He had not caught us red-handed, but his heart had already pieced together what his eyes had not seen. And the pain, the disappointment, it was unbearable. I fell to my knees. I never meant for it to happen, I said. It was one mistake. I thought I could bury it. But it was not just one mistake. It was a seed. And it had grown into a weed that choked everything beautiful between us. Peter stood up slowly. You let my brother touch you. And then you let him stay under my roof. Sit at my table. Sleep in my house. I sobbed. I am sorry. I was lonely. I was hurting. But it was never love. It was never real. He shook his head. Do not insult me with excuses, Bertha. You had choices. What followed was a blur of heartbreak. Peter packed a small bag and left that night. He stayed with a friend. Paul vanished the next day, leaving no note, no explanation, just like he had done so many times before in his life. But this time, he had left behind ruin. My friends stopped calling. Peter's family cut me off. I sat alone in the home we built together, surrounded by memories that now felt like broken glass. Every photo frame became a mirror of my shame. I had not just lost my husband, I had lost myself. People often say time heals, but some wounds do not heal. They scar. And every day, I wake up and run my fingers over those scars, reminders of what I threw away for one moment of weakness, for one reckless decision that spiraled out of control. If you are listening to this, and you are standing at the edge of a decision like the one I made, please step back. No thrill is worth the cost of self-respect. No fantasy is worth the death of trust. And no one, not even someone with the same face as your husband, can replace the man who gave you his heart. That is my truth. Now I want to hear yours. Would you have forgiven me if you were Peter? Do you believe Paul truly cared? Or was it always a game to him? Please drop your thoughts in the comments. I will be reading every single one. And if this story touched something in you, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support means everything and keeps stories like mine alive. Thank you for listening. Until next time, take care of your heart. It is the most fragile thing you own.